Horse bites down ON woman's hand. Horse guards, Royal Guard, King's Guard, Horse, London 2024. Among the many famous sights, one place stood out that day: the Horse Guards Parade, where the iconic Royal Horse Guards carried out their ceremonial duties. The sound of polished boots marching, the clattering of hooves, and the soft neighs of the horses combined to create a lively, yet disciplined atmosphere that always drew crowds. People had come to witness a piece of history, a tradition that had remained largely unchanged for centuries. The parade ground was vast and perfectly maintained. Rows of red brick buildings with white-trimmed windows framed the area, giving it an air of grandeur. Tourists lined the fences, cameras ready, while children pressed their faces against the railings, excited to see the towering horses up close. The smell of leather and horsehair mingled with the cool London air, a reminder that while it was a tourist attraction, it was also a place of work and tradition. Among the crowd stood a young woman named Emily. She had traveled from another country to see London in all its glory, and the Royal Horse Guards were high on her list of must-see experiences. Emily had always loved horses and had often dreamed of seeing them in person, especially the magnificent ones that were part of the King's Guard. Dressed in casual clothes and carrying a small camera, she navigated through the crowd, careful to find the best spot for photographs. Her excitement was palpable, and her eyes sparkled with anticipation. The guards, dressed in their bright red uniforms and black helmets with golden trim, moved with precision. Each step, each motion, was perfectly timed and deliberate. The horses, equally disciplined, followed their riders' commands with grace and power. Some of the animals were jet black, others chestnut brown, but all were impressively large and well-groomed. Their manes shone under the morning sun, and their polished hooves clicked sharply against the stone ground. Tourists marveled at their size and strength, taking pictures and whispering in awe. Emily edged closer to the fence, hoping to get a better angle for her photographs. She watched as one of the guards signaled his horse to stand still, allowing a few moments for visitors to take photos. Emily could hardly contain her excitement. She had grown up reading stories about the Royal Guard, seeing them in movies, and even learning about them in school. But now, to see the horses and the guards in real life was something she had never imagined. She felt a rush of joy and curiosity. As she adjusted her camera, Emily noticed the way the horse moved its ears and flicked its tail. She thought the animal looked gentle, even friendly. The sunlight reflected off its glossy coat, and Emily felt an irresistible urge to reach out and touch it. She knew she had to be careful. After all, these were trained ceremonial horses, but her fascination got the better of her. Slowly, almost instinctively, she extended her hand toward the animal. The crowd around her seemed to blur as her focus narrowed on the magnificent horse in front of her. The horse, tall and powerful, raised its head slightly. Its eyes, dark and deep, seemed to study her hand. Emily smiled, thinking the horse was calm and maybe even curious about her. She had petted horses before, at stables and riding schools, and it had always been a pleasant experience. She imagined the same here and leaned just a little closer, careful not to startle the animal. Around her, other tourists took photos, unaware of the sudden closeness between Emily and the horse. For a moment, time seemed to slow. The sound of marching and hooves faded into the background, replaced by the steady beating of Emily's own heart. She could feel the warmth of the animal through the barrier. It was magnificent, strong, and elegant. She whispered softly to it, trying to calm her own nerves as well as make the horse feel safe. The crowd continued to watch the ceremony, some recording videos, others pointing out details to friends and family. Emily felt as if she were in her own little world, standing just a few inches from a piece of living history. Yet in that brief moment of connection, there was a tension that Emily did not notice. Horses, no matter how well trained, are still powerful animals with instincts that can react unpredictably. The horse, feeling something unfamiliar, moved its head slightly. Emily thought it was a gentle nudge, a sign of acknowledgement, and she smiled. She leaned just a fraction closer, eager to feel its velvety nose brush her hand. She didn't realize that even a small movement could trigger a reaction. The guards, standing tall and attentive, noticed the proximity but did not alarm her. They were trained to remain calm and handle both the horses and the crowd with professionalism. Behind the polished helmets and stoic expressions, they monitored every interaction, every subtle signal from the horses. The parade was a delicate balance between ceremony, tradition, and public engagement. A single unexpected move could disrupt that balance. Emily's hand hovered over the horse's muzzle. She imagined she could feel the horse's breath and hear the soft rustling of its coat as it shifted slightly. The morning sun cast long shadows across the parade ground, highlighting the glint of metal on the guards' uniforms and the shine of the horse's coat. For Emily, it felt like a magical moment, the kind of experience she would remember forever. She thought about how lucky she was to be here, witnessing this historic spectacle in person. The atmosphere around her was a mixture of awe, excitement, and the faint hum of anticipation. Tourists whispered to one another, children giggled, and the guards maintained their disciplined march. Horses stamped their hooves lightly, sensing the energy in the air. Emily's focus remained on the animal in front of her, mesmerized by its size, its strength, and its calm presence. It was a living symbol of centuries of tradition, and she felt privileged just to be near it. As Emily leaned in just a little closer, the horse shifted its weight slightly. It was a small, almost imperceptible movement, but it carried the power of a fully grown animal. Emily's excitement blinded her to the potential danger. She smiled, imagining that the horse was being friendly, even playful. She spoke softly, encouraging it with gentle words. Around her, the crowd remained absorbed in the ceremony, unaware of the subtle tension building in that moment. It was a moment full of beauty and wonder, a perfect blend of history, tradition, and human curiosity. Emily felt connected to the centuries of ceremony that had taken place on that parade ground. She imagined the guards who had marched here before, the horses that had carried them, and the tourists who had watched in awe just like she was doing now. Everything seemed perfect, harmonious, and safe. Little did Emily know that this magical moment was about to change in an instant. The combination of her curiosity, the horse's instinct, and the proximity of the encounter created a situation that could turn unexpected very quickly. And yet, in that peaceful morning, surrounded by the beauty of London and the majesty of the King's Guard, she remained unaware that history was about to take a dramatic turn. Emily's hand hovered just above the horse's soft muzzle, and for a brief moment, everything seemed calm. The sun reflected off the horse's glossy coat, making it shimmer like bronze in the morning light. Emily felt a sense of awe and wonder, as if she were touching a piece of history itself. Around her, the crowd continued to murmur with excitement, their cameras flashing and capturing the perfect images of the parade. Children laughed and pointed, parents explained the traditions, and the guards remained statuesque, maintaining the discipline and precision of centuries-old ceremony. For Emily, it felt like time had slowed. She could feel the warmth of the horse's breath on her hand, hear the gentle shift of its hooves on the stone pavement, and sense the energy of a powerful, living creature standing just feet away. Her heart beat quickly, but not with fear. She was exhilarated. This was a moment she had dreamed of for years, and now she was experiencing it in the very heart of London, surrounded by history, tradition, and the quiet majesty of the King's Guard. But as Emily leaned a little closer, the horse shifted its weight. It was a subtle movement, one that might have gone unnoticed by anyone else in the crowd, but Emily felt it immediately. She smiled, thinking the horse was responding to her gentle touch. She whispered soft words of encouragement, trying to communicate kindness and calmness. She had petted horses before, and in her experience, animals often responded to a gentle voice. She thought the same would happen here. The guards, however, noticed the horse's subtle reaction. Trained for every possible scenario, they watched carefully. Ceremonial horses were used to crowds, loud noises, and sudden movements, but even the most well-trained animal could react if it felt uncertain. The guard's eyes flicked between Emily and the horse, ready to intervene if necessary. Their presence was calm and composed, a testament to years of rigorous training. They were professionals who knew that the safety of visitors and the horses alike depended on vigilance and patience. Emily, unaware of the potential danger, continued to extend her hand. Her curiosity and admiration were so strong that she did not notice the tiny signals the horse was giving. Its ears flicked slightly backward, its tail swished a little faster, and its head tilted ever so slightly. These were natural gestures for horses, indicating that it was sensing something unusual or potentially uncomfortable. Emily, interpreting the gestures as playful or friendly, leaned in closer, eager to feel the animal brush her palm. The atmosphere around her remained lively. Tourists whispered excitedly, taking pictures, while others discussed the history of the king's guard. The horses stamped lightly on the ground, their muscles rippling under their shiny coats. Emily felt a sense of connection, imagining the generations of guards and horses that had stood on this same parade ground. She felt privileged to witness such a grand tradition in person. Every detail, the polished uniforms, the ceremonial swords, the synchronized movements of the guards, filled her with admiration. Yet the closer she leaned, the more the horse began to react. It was not aggressive, but it was alert. Horses have instincts that date back thousands of years, and they can react quickly to unexpected movements. The guards could sense the slight tension in the animal, and their eyes sharpened. They did not panic. Instead, they subtly shifted their positions, preparing to guide the horse if needed. Their calm presence was reassuring, but Emily was completely focused on the horse, oblivious to the silent warning signals from the professionals. Emily's excitement grew. She imagined herself standing in a storybook scene, a visitor connecting with a living symbol of history. She reached a little closer, and her fingers brushed the horse's soft hair. It felt warm and strong, the kind of touch that made her feel small but also connected to something much larger than herself. She smiled, thinking that the horse accepted her presence. Around her, the crowd seemed to fade, leaving her in a quiet, magical bubble of wonder and anticipation. Suddenly, the horse's ears twitched sharply. It moved its head slightly to the side, a movement faster than Emily expected. She stumbled back slightly, her heart skipping a beat, but she laughed nervously, thinking it was playful. She whispered reassuring words, trying to calm the horse, while still reaching out as if to show she meant no harm. It was a moment of innocence, a misunderstanding of animal instincts, and a reminder that even the most majestic creatures have boundaries. The guards were now fully alert. One hand rested lightly on the reins, ready to guide the horse, while the other remained on the hilt of his ceremonial sword, not to threaten anyone, but to maintain control if the situation escalated. Their training allowed them to anticipate every movement, every subtle signal from the horse. They understood that even a well-trained ceremonial horse could react unexpectedly if it felt uncomfortable or threatened. Their eyes scanned the crowd, ensuring that no sudden movements or distractions would increase the risk. Emily, still unaware of the potential danger, moved even closer. She imagined capturing the perfect photograph, the kind that would make her friends back home envious. She did not see the tension in the horse's muscles, the small flick of its tail, or the subtle backward glance of its ears. She only saw beauty, strength, and a moment of connection. She reached out with her other hand, wanting to feel the full warmth and power of the animal. In that instant, the horse reacted, not aggressively but instinctively. Its powerful jaw closed briefly around her hand, not to hurt her but as a natural reaction to the sudden closeness. Emily felt a sharp shock of pain and surprise. She pulled back immediately, letting out a small cry. The crowd gasped, and the air filled with tension. The guards moved instantly, guiding the horse and creating a protective barrier between Emily and the animal. Their movements were swift but controlled, a demonstration of skill and experience. Emily's hand throbbed, the pain sharp and immediate. She looked down, shocked at what had just happened, her mind racing to understand how quickly a magical moment had turned into something dangerous. Around her, the crowd murmured with concern, some moving closer to offer help, others stepping back to give space. The guards reassured everyone, maintaining calm and order while ensuring Emily received attention immediately. The moment was over in seconds, but it left a lasting impression. Emily stood back, her hand now bandaged with the first aid kit that the guards had quickly brought forward. She was shaken, but not severely hurt, and she could hardly believe how fast the situation had escalated. The horse, now calm again under the careful guidance of the guard, stood quietly, its instincts returning to normal. The crowd relaxed slightly, but the memory of the sudden reaction lingered in the air. Emily realized how close she had come to serious injury. She felt a mix of relief, gratitude, and a newfound respect for the animals and the professionals who worked with them. She understood, in a way she had not before, that these were not just beautiful animals for photographs. They were living creatures with instincts, trained but still unpredictable and deserving of careful respect. The experience had shifted her perspective, turning admiration into cautious respect. The guards, still vigilant, ensured the horse returned to its position, maintaining discipline and calm. Emily stepped back, her camera hanging around her neck, capturing the scene not as a photographer, but as a witness to an unforgettable moment. The crowd slowly returned to observing the parade, the story of Emily and the horse spreading quietly among those who had seen the incident. Conversations bubbled up, some about the excitement, others about the unpredictability of horses, but all carried a sense of awe for the skill and composure of the royal guard. In that moment, Emily learned something profound. She had dreamed of standing close to a king's guard horse, and she had done so. But she had also learned that admiration must be paired with caution, curiosity with awareness. She felt a mix of emotions: wonder at the majestic animals, respect for the guards, and a personal lesson about the boundaries between humans and animals. The morning, which had begun as a magical, peaceful experience, had become a story of surprise, quick reactions, and learning, one that she would carry with her forever. As the parade continued, Emily observed quietly from a safe distance, taking in the beauty of the horses, the precision of the guards, and the energy of the crowd. She captured photographs, not as close as before, but with a new appreciation for the scene unfolding in front of her. Each click of the camera reminded her of the delicate balance between human curiosity and animal instincts, between admiration and respect, and between excitement and caution. By the time the parade reached its midpoint, Emily had calmed herself, reflecting on what had just happened. She spoke softly to herself, promising to always remember the lesson of the morning, that even the most beautiful and trained animals deserve respect and careful attention. She smiled faintly, grateful for the experience, the lesson, and the professionalism of the royal guard who had kept everyone safe. The day continued with the usual ceremony, but Emily's perspective had changed. She watched more attentively now, noticing small details: the way horses shifted their weight, the subtle signals of discomfort or curiosity, the guards' careful positioning. She realized that the parade was not just a show for tourists, but a carefully orchestrated display of skill, trust, and mutual respect between humans and animals. Emily stood frozen for a moment, the sharp sting in her hand reminding her that what had just happened was serious, even if she wasn't badly hurt. The sudden bite had shocked her, but it also awakened her awareness. Around her, the crowd reacted immediately. Gasps and murmurs filled the air as people realized that the incident had not been part of the ceremony. Some tourists leaned over, whispering to each other in concern, while others instinctively stepped back to give Emily and the horse space. The vibrant energy of the parade had shifted for a moment, replaced by tension and concern. The guards responded instantly. Years of training had prepared them for situations exactly like this. One of the guards moved carefully toward Emily, keeping his eyes on the horse while maintaining a calm, reassuring demeanor. Another reached for a small first aid kit that was kept nearby for emergencies. Their movements were quick but controlled, practiced to prevent panic among the crowd and to ensure the safety of everyone involved. Even in the midst of a crowd of excited onlookers, they remained composed, demonstrating the discipline and professionalism that had become a hallmark of the Royal Horse Guards. Emily felt a wave of relief when she saw the guards approach. Their calm presence reassured her, even as her hand throbbed with pain. She slowly withdrew it, careful not to make any sudden movements that might startle the horse further. The animal, guided gently by the reins, had been calmed by the experienced touch of its rider. Its breathing, once quick with tension, had slowed, and it now stood still, ears flicking softly as it adjusted to the situation. Emily realized how delicate this moment was. One wrong move could have made the situation worse, but the guards' expertise turned what could have been chaos into controlled safety. The first guard knelt slightly, opening the first aid kit with practiced hands. He assessed Emily's hand carefully, checking for injuries beyond the obvious bite marks. The woman winced slightly, but the guard's gentle, professional manner helped her remain calm. "It's going to be all right," he said softly, not just to her but to the crowd, his voice carrying authority yet kindness. The simple words helped to ease the tension in the air, reminding everyone that the situation was under control. Meanwhile, another guard remained beside the horse, speaking to it in quiet, reassuring tones. Horses are highly sensitive animals, and even ceremonial horses respond to the tone of voice and body language of those around them. The guard's calm words and steady hand on the reins helped the animal relax after the sudden incident. It was a subtle but important detail. Ensuring the horse remained calm prevented further risk, both for Emily and the surrounding tourists. The crowd watched in fascination, seeing firsthand the connection between trained humans and these magnificent animals. Emily's hand was cleaned and bandaged carefully. The guard explained each step as he worked, making sure she understood what was happening and what she should do next. He reminded her to keep her hand elevated for a few minutes and to apply gentle pressure if it continued to bleed. Emily nodded, grateful for the professionalism and reassurance. Though the pain was sharp, she realized it could have been much worse without the guard's swift response. She took a deep breath, letting the tension in her shoulders ease slightly as the first aid continued. The crowd had become more observant. Tourists whispered to each other about what had happened, some expressing sympathy, others curiosity. Children looked wide-eyed at the scene, seeing the guards not just as part of a parade, but as people trained to respond in emergencies. Many adults took mental notes, thinking about the unexpected lessons in safety, awareness, and respect for animals. Emily, though embarrassed at first, began to realize that her experience had become part of the story of the parade that day, a story that blended excitement, history, and reality. A few bystanders approached cautiously, offering words of concern or assistance. The guards politely held them back, explaining that everything was under control. Their calm authority prevented panic, allowing the situation to be handled without chaos. Emily appreciated this, realizing how important training and preparation were in public spaces with large animals. She noticed small details, the way the guard adjusted the horse's reins, the careful placement of his foot to guide the animal, the subtle hand gestures to communicate with his fellow guards. Each movement reflected discipline, respect, and expertise. As Emily's hand was bandaged, she noticed that the horse had returned to its usual posture, ears forward and eyes calm. The initial tension had faded, replaced by the quiet confidence of a trained ceremonial horse. It was as if the animal, too, understood that the situation had been handled properly. Emily felt a renewed respect for the horses and their riders. These animals were more than impressive sights for tourists. They were living partners in a tradition that demanded both skill and trust. The guard finished applying the bandage and advised Emily to see a medical professional afterward, just to ensure everything was okay. He smiled reassuringly, giving her a nod of encouragement before stepping back to allow the parade to continue. Emily thanked him sincerely, her voice shaky but grateful. Around her, the crowd resumed its activity, though a subtle energy of caution lingered. The incident had reminded everyone present that even the most controlled environments could have moments of unpredictability. Emily reflected on what had happened. She felt a mix of emotions: shock, relief, and gratitude. The bite had been painful, but it had also taught her a valuable lesson. Admiration for animals must always be paired with caution, and curiosity must respect boundaries. She realized that while her love for horses had drawn her close, she had underestimated the instincts of such a powerful creature. It was a humbling experience, but also a transformative one, shaping the way she would approach animals in the future. The crowd, too, began to share quiet conversations about what they had witnessed. Many were impressed by the guard's composure, realizing that the precision and discipline they had admired during the parade were not just for show. They were essential skills for maintaining safety. Tourists exchanged stories of animals they had encountered in their own lives, comparing experiences and learning from one another. Emily felt a sense of connection with these strangers, all of them witnessing the same unexpected lesson in respect and responsibility. Emily's hand still throbbed lightly, but the pain was manageable. She flexed her fingers carefully, relieved to find that movement was still normal. The guard advised her to keep it elevated for a short while, apply a cold compress later, and monitor for swelling. Emily promised to follow the advice, appreciating the care and professionalism of the royal guards. She realized how fortunate she was, not just to be alive and well, but to have been surrounded by experts who could handle the situation calmly and effectively. As the parade continued, Emily observed the horses more carefully from a safe distance. She noticed small details she had missed before: the way the guards communicated silently through gestures, the subtle signals horses gave when they were uncomfortable or alert, and the precise timing of each step in the ceremonial march. It was fascinating to see how much care and attention went into every detail, and Emily found herself gaining a deeper appreciation for the traditions she had admired from afar. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the parade ground. The crowd began to settle back into the rhythm of the ceremony, cameras clicking and tourists smiling. Emily stood quietly, reflecting on the intensity of the moment she had experienced. It had been brief, dramatic, and eye-opening, but it had also been managed with professionalism and care. She realized that the incident would stay with her, not as a traumatic memory, but as a lesson in respect, awareness, and human-animal connection. In the moments that followed, Emily allowed herself to relax. She watched the guards with renewed admiration, recognizing their skill, patience, and dedication. The horses, once again calm, continued their movements with grace and precision. Emily felt a sense of gratitude for her safety, for the guards' expertise, and for the chance to witness a living tradition up close. She smiled softly, understanding that this was a story she would tell for years to come, a moment that combined wonder, learning, and respect in equal measure. By the end of the ceremony, Emily had regained her composure. She had learned to approach the horses with caution, to respect their instincts, and to appreciate the skill required to work with such powerful animals. She knew that the memory of the morning, the sudden bite, the quick response of the guards, and the calm of the horses afterward would remain vivid in her mind. It had been a day of excitement, surprise, and valuable lessons, one that transformed her perspective and deepened her respect for both the royal guards and the magnificent animals they served alongside. The incident at the Horse Guards parade quickly became a topic of conversation among visitors and locals alike. News of what had happened spread quietly at first, with witnesses telling their friends and family about the moment Emily had been bitten by the horse. Everyone seemed fascinated by the event, combining curiosity, concern, and amazement. It was a story that captured attention because it involved a rare and unexpected occurrence at a place known for its discipline, tradition, and carefully controlled environment. Emily, now sitting on a nearby bench with her hand bandaged, reflected on what had happened. Though the pain in her hand had lessened, the emotional impact lingered. She realized that a simple desire to get closer to an admired animal had almost resulted in serious injury. She thought about how quickly situations could change, even in places that seemed perfectly safe. But alongside this awareness came a deep appreciation for the professionalism of the royal guards, whose calm and swift actions had prevented what could have been a much worse outcome. The guards themselves returned to their duties, but their presence remained a quiet reassurance to visitors. They maintained the parade with the same precision and care, yet every step they took seemed to carry a subtle extra layer of vigilance. Observers began to notice the care with which the guards handled their horses, the soft commands they gave, and the way they guided the animals with ease. It became clear that the ceremonial display was not just about tradition or aesthetics. It was a demonstration of skill, respect, and careful attention to detail. As Emily regained her composure, she noticed that other tourists were whispering and pointing. Some were asking questions, trying to understand how such a well-trained horse could bite. Others expressed concern for Emily, admiring her bravery in the face of a sudden scare. She explained softly, without dramatizing the event, that it had been a minor incident and that the guards had handled everything expertly. People listened, nodding in understanding, and the crowd slowly returned to enjoying the parade. The moment, while dramatic, had already begun to fade into a memorable story rather than a crisis. Social media, of course, played a role in spreading the story further. Within hours, photos and videos taken by other tourists began circulating online. Captions described the incident as a startling but handled safely moment, with many viewers expressing amazement at both Emily's experience and the professionalism of the royal guards. Some posts focused on the beauty of the parade and the impressive horses, while others highlighted the importance of following safety rules around large animals. Emily herself saw a few posts and quietly smiled, realizing that her experience had become a valuable lesson for many people around the world. Authorities at the Horse Guards parade reviewed the incident carefully. Officials spoke with the guards to understand exactly what had happened, and they examined the safety measures in place for visitors. It was determined that, while the incident had been rare and unexpected, the protocols worked effectively to prevent serious harm. Signs reminding visitors to keep a safe distance from the horses were reinforced, and staff made sure that the public understood the importance of following these rules. Emily felt a sense of relief, knowing that steps were being taken to prevent similar incidents in the future. Emily herself reflected on the experience in a thoughtful way. She realized that admiration for animals and cultural traditions comes with a responsibility. Being close to something beautiful and powerful requires awareness, patience, and respect. Her fascination with the horses had been natural, but she now understood the importance of boundaries. She also appreciated the quick thinking and professionalism of the royal guards, recognizing that their training allowed them to handle emergencies calmly, efficiently, and safely. Visitors around her began to share their own experiences. Some recounted times they had interacted with animals and learned lessons about caution and respect. Others discussed moments when a simple curiosity had turned into a small scare, and everyone seemed to connect over the shared understanding that even well-trained animals have instincts. Emily listened to these stories, feeling a sense of community among the tourists who had witnessed her moment of surprise. It was a unique way of connecting people, as her experience became part of a larger conversation about respect, learning, and awareness. Local media also reported on the incident, emphasizing the professionalism of the guards and the swift response to the situation. Articles highlighted how trained ceremonial horses, while accustomed to crowds, can still react to sudden movements or unfamiliar interactions. Reporters interviewed bystanders who praised the guards for their composure and skill, and they reminded readers of the importance of maintaining a safe distance when interacting with large animals. The coverage was factual and respectful, avoiding sensationalism, and presenting the story as both an educational moment and a minor, well-managed incident. Emily, meanwhile, had begun to share her own thoughts on social media. She wrote carefully, explaining the event, her gratitude toward the guards, and the lessons she had learned. Her post resonated with many readers, earning comments from people who shared similar experiences or who thanked her for reminding them to respect animal boundaries. Emily found comfort in knowing that what had been a startling moment for her could also serve as a teaching moment for others. She realized that even brief experiences can have lasting value when reflected upon thoughtfully. Authorities also took this opportunity to provide public guidance. They emphasized that while the Royal Horse Guards are highly trained and experienced, their horses are still animals with natural instincts. Visitors were reminded to observe from a safe distance, follow instructions, and never attempt to touch the horses without guidance. Posters and social media updates reinforced these messages, ensuring that future interactions would be safer for both tourists and the animals. Emily felt reassured that her experience would contribute to a better understanding of safety and respect in public spaces. As the day continued, the parade proceeded with its usual rhythm and elegance. Horses marched with precision, guards moved with disciplined grace, and the crowd gradually returned to enjoying the spectacle. Emily watched quietly from a safe distance, her camera around her neck, taking photographs of the pageantry with renewed appreciation. Every step, every movement, seemed richer now that she had witnessed not only the beauty of the parade, but also the reality of handling large, powerful animals in a controlled environment. Emily also took time to reflect personally on what had happened. She realized that her curiosity, though natural, had almost led to serious consequences. She considered how important it was to balance admiration with awareness, excitement with caution. She promised herself that in future encounters with animals, she would always respect boundaries, observe carefully, and listen to those who were trained to manage such situations. Her experience had been both thrilling and educational, and she recognized that this lesson would stay with her for life. The crowd, too, had learned something valuable. Many parents used the incident as an opportunity to teach their children about respecting animals and following safety rules. Tourists discussed the importance of paying attention to professional guidance, and visitors reflected on how even controlled environments require mindfulness. Emily observed these interactions with quiet satisfaction, realizing that her experience had ripple effects beyond herself. What had begun as a startling moment had become a meaningful lesson for many people. By late afternoon, Emily had fully regained her composure. She moved around the parade ground, taking more photographs and watching the horses and guards with careful attention. The incident, though still vivid in her memory, no longer carried the same intensity of fear. Instead, it had become a story of learning, gratitude, and respect. She smiled to herself, thinking about how moments like these, unexpected, surprising, and even frightening, can offer some of the most important lessons in life. As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting warm golden light over the parade ground, Emily felt a sense of peace. She had witnessed history, encountered a powerful animal up close, and learned a lesson she would never forget. The crowd dispersed slowly, with conversations still buzzing about the morning's unexpected incident. Emily joined the flow of tourists leaving the Horse Guards parade, reflecting on how a single moment could shift perspective, teach respect, and create lasting memories. By the end of the day, Emily had internalized a new understanding. She respected the horses even more than before, admired the guards' professionalism, and recognized the importance of safety in public spaces. Her experience, while unsettling at first, had evolved into a story of awareness, learning, and shared understanding. It was a day she would never forget, one that combined excitement, history, education, and reflection into a single, unforgettable experience. As the sun began to dip lower in the London sky, casting warm golden light across the Horse Guards parade, Emily walked slowly along the edge of the parade ground. She felt a deep sense of reflection on the events of the day. What had begun as a simple visit to see the iconic Royal Horse Guards had turned into an unforgettable experience, one that blended wonder, surprise, learning, and personal growth. She thought about the horse that had bitten her hand, the guards who had responded so quickly, and the crowd that had witnessed the incident with a mix of curiosity and concern. It was a moment that she knew would stay with her forever. Emily's hand, now bandaged securely, throbbed slightly but no longer caused sharp pain. She flexed her fingers gently, grateful for the guard's quick and careful response. Every step she took reminded her of the lesson she had learned that morning. Admiration for animals must always be accompanied by caution, and curiosity must be guided by respect. She realized that the bite, while startling, had been a necessary wake-up call, a way to understand the power and instincts of animals that humans often take for granted. Walking along the parade ground, Emily observed the horses with renewed awareness. She noticed the subtle movements of their ears, the way their hooves tapped rhythmically on the stone pavement, and the quiet communication between the guards and their mounts. It struck her how much trust existed between humans and animals in this setting. The horses followed commands with precision, yet they were living creatures with instincts that could never be fully suppressed. Emily felt a mixture of awe and humility, recognizing the balance of skill, discipline, and care required to maintain such a grand tradition. The royal guards continued their ceremonial duties with unwavering professionalism. Their polished uniforms gleamed in the afternoon sun, their boots clicking sharply against the parade ground, and their eyes remained attentive. It was clear to Emily that their role extended far beyond creating a beautiful spectacle for tourists. They were guardians of both tradition and safety, responsible for ensuring that the horses, visitors, and ceremonial practices all coexisted harmoniously. She felt immense respect for their dedication, knowing that the smooth flow of the parade depended on years of training, experience, and patience. As Emily reflected, she thought about the broader lessons from her experience. The morning's incident had reminded her that life often contains unexpected events. No matter how careful one might be, surprises can occur. What mattered most was how people respond to these situations, with calm, awareness, and respect for those involved. Emily realized that she had been fortunate. The guards had acted swiftly, the horse had quickly returned to calm, and the crowd had remained composed. Each element contributed to turning what could have been a serious situation into a moment of learning and reflection. She also thought about the reactions of the crowd. People had whispered, gasped, and even approached to offer help. In those moments, strangers had become witnesses, participants, and silent supporters. Emily understood that her experience had impacted them as well, giving them a story to share and a lesson to remember. It was a reminder that individual experiences often ripple outward, touching the lives of others in ways one might not anticipate. She smiled quietly, appreciating the subtle ways in which humans connect and learn from shared experiences. Emily's thoughts then turned to social media and the news coverage of the incident. She had seen posts from around the world describing what had happened, with many highlighting the professionalism of the guards and the importance of safety around large animals. Some posts had shared educational points about horse behavior, while others emphasized the need for caution when admiring majestic animals up close. Emily realized that her story had become more than a personal memory. It had become a lesson for others, helping people understand the balance between curiosity and respect, excitement and caution. She remembered how she had approached the horse that morning with innocent enthusiasm, unaware of the potential risks. In hindsight, she could see how her actions had inadvertently tested the horse's instincts. Yet she also felt gratitude. The experience had provided a rare opportunity to learn firsthand about the nature of animals, the importance of boundaries, and the value of professional guidance. Emily recognized that curiosity, when paired with respect, could be a powerful force for learning, but when it lacked awareness, it could lead to dangerous situations. As the parade began to wind down for the day, Emily found a quiet spot to sit and watch the guards and horses one last time. She observed the careful manner in which the horses were led back to their stables, the precise coordination among the guards, and the respect and patience displayed throughout. She realized that every detail mattered: the gentle guidance of the reins, the soft tones of the guards' voices, the careful positioning of each horse, and the ever-present awareness of both human and animal behavior. It was a lesson in discipline, observation, and mindfulness that extended far beyond the parade ground. Emily also reflected on her personal growth throughout the day. She had arrived full of excitement and curiosity, driven by a desire to experience history up close. By the afternoon, she had learned humility, patience, and the value of observation. She had discovered that admiration for beauty must always be tempered with awareness, that fascination with strength and power requires respect, and that moments of surprise often contain important lessons. She felt proud of herself for processing the experience thoughtfully and for allowing it to become a source of learning rather than fear. The crowd began to thin as visitors left for the evening, many discussing the day's events and sharing stories of what they had witnessed. Emily walked slowly alongside the parade ground, noticing families explaining the importance of boundaries to children, tourists reflecting on their own experiences with animals, and photographers capturing the last rays of sunlight on the horses' coats. She felt a sense of community, knowing that the day's events had connected people through a shared moment of learning, reflection, and respect. Emily's final thoughts centered on gratitude. She was grateful for the guards' expertise, for the horses' quick return to calm, for the lessons learned, and for the opportunity to witness such a magnificent tradition up close. She realized that life often presents challenges and surprises, but with careful observation, patience, and respect, these moments can become opportunities for growth. Emily felt a deep appreciation for the Royal Horse Guards, the horses, and the history they represented. She understood that her experience was not just a story about a minor incident. It was a story about learning, awareness, and human-animal connection. As the parade ground emptied, Emily took one last photograph, capturing the elegance of the horses and the discipline of the guards in the golden light of late afternoon. She smiled softly, knowing that the image represented more than a visual memory. It symbolized the lessons she had learned, the respect she now held for animals and their trainers, and the personal growth she had experienced. The bite, the brief moment of danger, and the professional response had all become part of a meaningful story she would carry with her forever. Walking away from the parade, Emily felt a sense of closure. She reflected on how moments of surprise often bring clarity and understanding, how unexpected events can teach lessons that are remembered for a lifetime, and how respect for others, whether human or animal, is always essential. She had learned that admiration must be balanced with caution, curiosity with mindfulness, and excitement with respect. These were lessons that extended far beyond the Horse Guards parade, shaping how she would approach life in the future. By the time Emily reached the nearest cafe, the streets of London had begun to glow under the soft evening lights. She sipped a warm drink, thinking about the day's events with a sense of peace and gratitude. She felt proud of how she had handled the experience, grateful for the lessons learned, and inspired by the dedication and professionalism of the Royal Guards. Her day at the Horse Guards parade had been transformative, providing both awe-inspiring sights and meaningful personal insight. As night settled over the city, Emily finally felt ready to leave the parade behind, carrying the lessons she had learned into her future adventures. She understood that life would always contain unexpected moments, but with awareness, respect, and careful attention, these moments could become opportunities for growth and understanding. Her experience at the Horse Guards parade had shown her that true learning often comes from the unexpected, that admiration is deepened by caution, and that respect for living creatures is an essential part of every interaction. In the end, Emily's visit to the Horse Guards parade became far more than a simple sightseeing trip. It had been an adventure, a challenge, a moment of surprise, and a journey of learning. She had witnessed history, interacted closely with powerful animals, and observed the professionalism of trained guards. She had experienced a sudden scare, received expert care, and reflected deeply on her own behavior. Most importantly, she had grown, learning lessons about awareness, respect, and human-animal connection that would remain with her for a lifetime.